Welcome to First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, the birthplace of congregational humanism. We carry on that tradition of free thought today, dedicated to promoting a free search for truth, meaning, and justice. Our web address is firstunitarian.org. I'm David Breeden, Senior Minister. Welcome.
Ethical Explorers is a program, as someone would often say. We have a youth program. We have a intergenerational program. I also want to attach the word process to it. It is a process. Learning, as I know it, has always been a process, and we are continuous learners, especially if you are in humanist spaces. We value what happens in the learning. And I am grateful to say that we have engaged for this year something new. Oftentimes in our spaces, particularly UUA affiliated spaces or those from the Unitarian Universalist space, we call our program Religious Education. And so we shifted it here at FUS. Not that it is any better, not that it is some incredible formation that has just taken place, but it is a conversation that needs to start as we think about congregational life, our families in our congregations, and we think about youth and how we maintain the vibrancy and the integrity of the work that we do within humanist communities and those who deeply are seeking spaces with humanist values and not ones that are often found in religion. So, I would like to say that this task is very different, but I love a good challenge. And if anybody knows me, I'll go about it in any way I possibly can. So my job was not just to teach, I realized, but my job was to actually offer a practice of listening. You cannot, in no way, step into a room filled with various ages and think you're going to direct them into knowledge.
Amen.
It doesn't work like that. And you have to be able to compete, because competing with the most vibrant thing, which is technology, you better have a look and you better have a performance, because I can guarantee you TikTok is ready to take my job. YouTube will take my job, and Google has already started. But I love to teach. I love to educate. I love to elicit the best in our youth. And so I can't hold back what Ethical Explorers really is. Ethical Explorers, as I know it, is the possibility to offer various frameworks of instruction that come not from me, but from listening to young voices. Most of us probably remember the years in which we were young. And if we go back, we can think about our youth for a few minutes, our own youthful time. The warm-up in your packet we can begin to explore. Jacob, let's go for that first slide. Here is the fountain of youth. Let us all take a dip into it, if you will. You probably have heard of the Fountain of Youth and in all of its legend. It has often been identified that the Fountain of Youth is located in St. Augustine, Florida. It's perfectly fine, isn't it? And it was discovered by Juan Ponce de Leon and his journey in the 1500s. He is looking for the Fountain of Youth. He is searching for the Fountain of Youth, and supposedly he found it. And began to possibly drink water. But I want to point out why the Fountain of Youth is probably the beginning of my talk, other than just talking about young people, because we assume as adults, because we've been adulting for so long, we will go and reach back to our youth to talk about youth. and we can't say that that matches up easily. And I myself, even at 40, realized that so much has even changed. And here it is, the fountain of youth. If we all hop into it, Mark Twain reminds us and says that life would be infinitely happier if we could only be born at the age of 80 and gradually approach 18.
Yep.
This remark continues to unfold with other records, if you will, where ancient Greek poet Homer calls old age loathsome. William Shakespeare terms it a hideous winter. And if you are familiar with Oscar Wilde's character, Dorian Gray, he preserves his youth by aging only in a painting. It's fascinating to think for a minute about how we understand ourselves, our bodies, our minds as we grow in age. So much of our life are stories not only that we live through, but stories that have been bestowed onto us from our parents, maybe part of our jobs, maybe part of it is also other external forces around systems and laws. We have stories that attach themselves to us, and we fail to know our own. So how do I protect kids from having their story just thrown at them? How do I do that? Well, I have to listen. I have to listen deeply. And this starts a very unique journey with ethical explorers. The historian, for a minute, if you will, for the Fountain of Youth at Virginia Commonwealth University, says this about the way that we experience the Fountain of Youth. People are more intrigued by the story of looking and not finding the fountain at all. I've been on this journey with our youth, with our intergenerational camp, I'll say. And I will say, I have been more fascinated with looking with them, listening with them. And so where does this place us? This places us in being explorers. And so I invite you to be an explorer today with us. Next slide. Ethical plus explorer equals E squared. This is where it all begins. Ethical Explorers is a learning process for moral compass, moral courage, moral creativity, and moral character development. This is not a religious education program. Religious education is religion and the indoctrination of a direct instructional value. So when we talk about religious education, most of us cling to it immediately. Here, though, Dewey reminds us about the religious experience has a lot to do with the ideals or the imagination. So when we think about, for a minute, that little bit of warm-up about when you were young and what was your religious education experience, what was it like? What did you take with you? What was put into you? I did not have the opportunity to be a Unitarian Universalist member. Never. That was not my life. I was raised Pentecostal, as most of you know. And so there were particular ways in which religious education informed my growth and development. I was Bible-based. Everything I did was based out of the Bible, out of a Christian context. My life had to be based off of Jesus. I was actually ordained at 12 to preach. Because why? Jesus preached at 12.
Yeah.
I'm already on the roll. I might make it to the cross. Oh, no. That's unnerving. I can't even imagine asking one of our 12-year-olds to preach a sermon and find their voice if it has never been cultivated.
Yeah.
And they don't even know the wisdoms that they have in them, because no one has actually spent the time to listen to how the wisdom is coming across. So, where does that place us? That places us into a deeper practice of listening. As a congregation, that's the first thing I want to leave with you today. We're going to start listening, and courageously listening. That our youth need the opportunity to have their voices heard and their ideas heard. This is a part of autonomy. This is a part of their process of growing and learning. So when we think about the unseen, we don't always see our youth because we're used to giving them instruction. That's the directness of instruction. Direct instruction has an objective. This is what I'm going to teach you. This is how you're going to do it. And at the end of the day, there's an outcome. But what if we go through a process differently? What if we allow for them to offer us the journey? What if we take on the concepts of their worldview and try to make it their reality? Last week, we saw actually a whole moment in which some would say, oh, Jay, you did a great job. No. Avi did a good job, writing an incredible script. Jay, you did a great job. No. Hadassah did a great job, acting out the character and listening to Avi. All I did was make sure that the space was available, that what they desired was going to be in the space, and make sure that nobody gets hurt in the process.
Yep.
Even their feelings.
Amen.
Because that's important. So this is why it's important for us to look back at Dewey for a few minutes regarding how we see religion and how religion is different than the religious, right? And how we need to consider how we are institutional, doctrinal, right? And how we engage our human experience by having the religious. This is what makes us religious humanists or a congregational humanist. Next slide. So, time and understanding. Believe it or not, when me and Justice laid out the months, we were looking, and I was like, okay, how can I do this? I went, grabbed the resources from the AHA regarding the months and how we could begin to strategize humanist values within the theme of the month. This is not based out of the tapestry curriculum that we are familiar with within the UUA. This is particularly humanist values. So each month has something different. These are the themes. This is how it is articulated. And what I want to point out is the program is intergenerational currently right now. And in the past, our program has often been very systematized to be aged, based off of age. First grade, second grade, third grade, so on and so forth. I've introduced and created an intersection that is both Montessori, Reggio Emilia, and also based out of what is also known as the Filston School, which deals with pragmatic education. You've probably seen David write very clearly from the theoretical standpoint of education that this is also constructivist education. And so there is a process in which this happens. I want to name uniquely, though, this is a very unique way to engage educational philosophy, because Montessori is often seen in a private sector and often paid tuition. Reggio Emilia, private sector, tuition. And the Filston School, if you've never heard of it, I recommend looking it up, founded by Felix Adler, the founder of ethical culture and ethical humanism, right? Another private school in the middle of the city. And so particular children do go to these schools. So what does it mean for us to have that kind of philosophy engaged. We have to be mindful, and I have to be mindful, because I have always taught in inner city schools. I love all kids to a place where I'm like, no one should have to pay tuition to have intuition or agency. Amen. Just doesn't work that way. Yep. So I hope that the doors become full after a while, because this is the opportunity for children to engage their biggest possibilities and not have to pay. So, how do I do that? I stretch myself. I've been in Montessori settings. And actually, I was a part of a Montessori public charter school in Baltimore. So if you're not familiar, that's why I also have a bit of that love and passion. Reggio Emilia, I'm trained in because that was my curriculum when I was in undergrad, right? And Philston, well, I come from ethical culture, and it is what it is. But I'm grateful for the process. When I look at particularly how we go about it, I want our kids to not just grow in age, but grow with grace. Grace and courtesy is what we often say in Montessori. And so when we offer grace in the process of learning, we actually get to the worth of knowing. And our curriculum at this point allows for our explorers to have a moment, which I hope most of us in this space feel like we are worthwhile. Not that we just have an inherent worth based off of our first principle, but that we are worthwhile. We are amazing. We are credible. Like the moment where you came out as a humanist and everybody looked at you and was like, yep. Did they just say that they don't believe in anything? That's your coming out story. Don't think you ain't come out, honey. You did, right? So how do we engage that process? We have to realize that there's something unique about us, not something different, something unique, vibrant. So when I'm engaging our youth, I offer that. Now, I want to just offer this. I know, too, that we won't have pictures today. And that's because, honestly, I want to maintain the privacy and the respect of our parents who have not signed any kind of waivers. So if you don't see any pictures, I want to be mindful that we're online. So I just want to put that out there as a disclosure, disclaimer. But I also want to offer this. I am using a Baldwinian tactic. James Baldwin is probably one of my favorite scholars and critics. And one of the things that he offers us is he says that love helps us take off the mask that we cannot live within or live without, right? I'm also engaging in the process of listening to see what can be revealed behind these masks. When Avi was working on a project in the class, I said, Avi, what is that? And Avi began to tell me the story and unpack. And they began to explain this unique character. And I said, Avi, would you like to help me with something? And of course, a little creative insecurity was there, only for me to do my work and be like, I see you. Take off the mask. That's right. And now you have a playwright. How old is Avi, Mark? 12. Yep. Shakespeare would say that you can find sermons in stones. I was preaching at 12. So it might just be possible. It just might not be up here, right? There are actors amongst us. There are songwriters amongst us. There are detailed analysts among us, Franklin. Franklin is the last person to leave the space oftentimes because he is so diligent at every project. Yep. But it's taking off the mask and allowing for them to go through, as what James Baldwin would say also, that it is a quest. The process is also daring, and it should offer growth. And this is a principle for our youth to live into. When When is the last time you dared yourself to do something completely uncomfortable? Write that down in your book if you can. And I triple dare you to write it. I double dare you to write it with no slime attached. Right? What is your next quest? What is your next quest? There's a quest in you. I don't care if you're 70. Figure it out. Have you listened to yourself lately? What are you growing into? For my online community, if you are joining us, please feel free to write these down as well for yourself. I want to love you in the process called life. Let's look at the physicality here. Next slide, Jacob. So weekly, we have been trying to explore this framework within the curriculum, which is first Sundays are the introduction of values and the content. And then the second Sunday, we would explore the creation with the value and content, right? And creation is often the art or the creative process. And then my goal on the third Sunday was to offer some kind of practice-based feedback from an artist. And then fourth Sunday, but we had to switch that because we realized that third Sunday would work best this year. But there's always a plan. And I'm really appreciative to David for giving us the opportunity to move us into an intergenerational concept that is more youth-focused. So last Sunday was your intergenerational process. How did that feel for some of us? If I can just get a thumb here, thumb here, thumb here. All right, look at the classroom. Yes. Right? So what happens to the upper assembly hall or in the chalice room? I'm calling this the studio lab. This is the studio lab. It is a container for our learning and engagement. The space requires a kind of a home-based feel. I think that's very important. It does deserve a little rug, a little flat table, a little surface, kind of make it homey. And it should gradually move us into 3 to 4 ages of shared learning development. Everyone can learn from someone. There is no one in here that cannot learn from someone. I learn from the very infant when they are ready to be like, I'm over it, I need you to end this now, to the very adult. And those who are also retired and like, I don't take up too much more of my time. I want to go somewhere else to have brunch, right? But the studio lab is to offer reflection and review. The studio lab should offer practice as play, makers and movement of the space, right? And discussion formats. It should engage the confront creative insecurity, and manifest the explorer's personal potential within their humanist journey. So when we think about this process, this is where we are. If you can just go, Jacob, to slide 10 for me, actually slide 9. Here is a lesson. Here is a lesson called Step by Step. I know y'all think I'm talking about New Kids on the Block. But Step by Step actually starts off with the work of Andy Warhol. Next slide. Here I write the standard direct instruction kind of approach, which says we are learning too. I never leave myself out of the process of learning. I don't say my students are learning, I say we are. Because I come from a culture where we say, I am because we are. We are because I am, right? Together, simultaneously, right? And so we demonstrate and impact the affirmations through practice of movement and dance within a humanist community. If I made y'all dance right now, that would be a great thing. Right? But how do we do this? We have to motivate our kiddos, just like I would have to motivate you to get to a place to move. Next slide. They get some information. Next slide. Here are our values that we're going to focus on: acceptance and affirmation, and the difference between the two, how they work. Next slide. Then we get a chance to just see how Andy Warhol and the work will coincide. So how do we affirm our students in doing this, right? I always say acceptance is very different than affirmation. Acceptance is like inviting somebody to a dance party, hence why the dance is happening. And acceptance says, hey, come to my party. You give them an invitation, you hope they come. Affirmation is this: come to my dance party. I'll see you at 7. I'm going to play your favorite song, and we're going to dance together. See the difference? It's a build-up of that person's personal becoming and belonging, that they do not feel excluded, and they know that you saw them, and you heard them, and you feel them. When we do that work, next slide, just to point out, here it is. We're having the community discussion, we lay out the preparations, and done. That's it for the slides. But I want to name this. That's the work that goes into a lesson plan. That was my first lesson. I never had to teach like that again, because after a while, they started bringing their own lessons. And they began to get me to listen. And they began to share with me their stories and their talent and their ability. And I took in the process, and now I'm on a journey with them, leading the way, practicing their best agency, practicing their humanist values, and pointing to it, highlighting it for them. I love how compassionate you are. I love how diligent you are, Franklin. Let me tell you something, Hadassah, you and your ability to actually affirm and be an advocate in a space, I love that. That is our values here. And if we can't uplift that and use it for our benefit, we could use some of that in this space. Amen. Right? So, I'll leave you with this. You have your booklet, so you have some homework if you did not finish your assignment today. Yeah. Take it home. Think about it. Because I know we all get trapped into the idea of, that was not my religious education experience. That's not what we did. That's not what I did with my children. We decided this year to get focused on what FUS needs and what our youth need in this space. The E Squared committee, I know we said Religious Education Committee, I know we've kind of gone in between both, but I want to say I appreciate you, E Squared Committee, because you have also been so vital to creating this formation and have informed this process totally. So in my closing, as I get my little notes out here for myself, sorry y'all. Boop. There. Oh. How did we get? I love it. Here we go. I have so many things to say right now, but I won't. In the closing of this, I would like to say that if anything, what we need in this coming few years, my 3-year plan is that we would have an active, growing E Squared program that also incorporates beacons, not to be confused with deacons, okay? But those who hold the vibrancy and the order to support our families in being here. That all families and all youth are welcome in this space, the Upper Assembly Hall. And that this congregation and even our talks, though I love you, David, become user-friendly in language and creating a culture of engagement and not just hearing. We have become hearers, but courageous listeners have to be engaged in their body. And lastly, my hope is that we build this out to a lifelong learning program of all ages, where those who have retired, who are in their latter years, who have been sucked in by the system to work all their life and cannot do any more social justice work, finally have a space of encore to remind you it's your time again to shine. Because we need to focus on you too. You still have your fabulous. And that would be a whole nother talk. Yeah. But I want to offer you your fabulous because you deserve it. And continue also to make this role not as a religious education director, but a lifelong learning minister where there is actual family and pastoral support for our youth in their schools as well as in their home. Because there's a lot of things to process when we are young and as we mature. I say these things, I hope that you hear me, because I would love for our light to just shine.
Thanks for listening. You can find much more about humanism and what's happening at First Unitarian Society in Minneapolis by visiting our website at firstunitarian.org.